Hi, friends. Welcome to Happy Healthy Living with Yvonne Douglas. My name is Doug, and today we're going to make a soup that is inspired by this lady at my church. Her name is Nancy. I tasted her Leek-Potato Soup probably about a year and a half ago, and she gave me the recipe. I changed it up just a little bit, but it is so good, and I hope you guys stay tuned. Okay, so let's talk about the ingredients we're going to need for our delicious leek potato soup. So we're going to need 4 leeks, and we're going to be using the white all the way through the light green part. So pretty much up until there. We're going to need around 1 cup of celery, including the leaves, so about 1 cup of celery. We're going to need bay leaves, we're going to need chives, Gruyere cheese, chicken broth, a little extra virgin olive oil, thyme leaves, garlic powder, onion powder. We're going to need around 4 to 5 garlic toes or cloves right here. So 1 bulb, this is a bulb, and then these individual ones are called cloves. So we're going to need around 4 to 5. Half a stick of butter. So a half stick of butter, which is around 4 tablespoons. And then we're going to need a little salt because that chicken broth already has salt. So if you're using unsalted chicken broth, then you probably want to use a little bit more salt. But we're just going to use just a little bit of salt, about a teaspoon of pepper. We're going to be using half of this white onion. We're going to chop it up small. We're going to need around 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. So 1 to 2 cups of heavy whipping cream. And then we're going to need around 3 to 4 pounds of red potatoes. Okay, so this is around 3 to 4 pounds of red potatoes. Of course, we're going to be using a Dutch oven to cook this in. And as a little side, I got some French bread too. I didn't make it, but store-bought everything French bread. So it's going to be really yummy with this delicious leek potato soup. So let's start cooking. Okay, so let's talk about what we've done so far. So basically I cut the main leaves off. I only went up to the light green. And leeks, if you don't know, some people don't know about leeks. Leeks are kind of like it's onion-like. Um, it comes from the amaryllis plant. It's a vegetable. And it is really known in the Mediterranean. They use a lot of leeks in the Mediterranean. And it's, like I said, it's kind of like like an onion, a very sweet onion. I washed and I cut my leeks. I have my potatoes. These are my red potatoes. Now you can leave the skin on. I decided to peel most of the skin off. There's just like a little bit on there. We will be cutting those up anyway. And then of course I have my celery. This is approximately a cup of celery, and even with the leaves. I already went ahead and diced up my white onion. I have approximately a half a cup. I want to use about a half a cup of white onion. Even that the leeks are like an onion, but it's very mild. So I'm going to add a little bit of that white onion. And then of course my garlic cloves. I used around 5 garlic cloves and just chopped it up very coarsely, as you can see. Um, we are going to be using chives too, but that's later on as a garnish. And then I have 3 bay leaves that we're going to be adding to the soup. But before we're going to be cooking with it, but then we're going to be taking the bay leaves out. All right, so the very first thing we want to do is get our butter, and we're going to start cooking up our onions, our leeks, and also the celery. Okay, so I have my Dutch oven here. I'm heating up the base. I'm going to be using probably about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, just enough to kind of cover the bottom. And then we're going to add our butter. So I'm adding my butter. So once that is melted, then we're going to start to add the onions. Okay, so I'm going to add my onions to that butter. I'm going to add my leeks. So what I did with my leeks, I just kind of chopped them up coarsely. Give that a little stir. We are going to be using an immersion blender later on. So we're just going to cook these up like this. Real easy. I'm going to add my celery. Make sure you stir that in the butter and oil. Now we're going to be cooking this until the leeks get soft and they start to wilt. So it's going to take around 10 minutes. You also want to adjust your heat because you do not want to brown your leeks or the celery. Okay. So where this is going to cook for around 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. Okay, so about halfway through, what we're going to do is we're going to add that garlic. And give that a toss. Stir that in there. Smells so good. And we're going to continue cooking this for about 5 more minutes. We want to make sure that the leeks are soft and wilty. I'm going to cover it. I have it on a low flame right now. So about 5 more minutes. Okay, let's take a look. Yep, it's looking good. It's getting soft and wilty. So make sure that you stir it every so often. This has probably about another minute to go. Okay, so that is done. I'm going to add now a little garlic powder. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of that. A little onion powder. About a teaspoon of that. About half a teaspoon of thyme leaves. Just going to add just a little bit of salt because the chicken broth already has salt. So I just added a little bit. And we want to add probably about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of black pepper, depending on your taste. I think that's good. Give that a toss. That looks good. So now what I want to do is I'm going to add my chicken broth. I'm going to use one. This is 4 cups right here. So I'm using one whole package. Or one whole container, I should say. Okay. And then I'm going to add my potatoes. Now I just cut my potatoes pretty much in fourths. I'm going to add 2 more cups of the chicken broth. Give that a little stir. Going to add my 3 bay leaves. Okay. And just kind of submerge that in the liquid. You're going to cover that and let that cook for around half an hour. Okay, it has been about 30 minutes. We're going to look at it. Now you definitely want to cook this on a simmer until the potatoes are soft. So we're going to test our potatoes. Like I said, it's been 30 minutes and yep, they are pretty soft. You can poke a fork through them. I'm going to do it 1 more minute covered, and then we're going to use our immersion blender. Okay, so I turned off the heat, removing the lid, giving it a little stir. Now you want to take out the bay leaves, give it a little stir, and the potatoes, yep, they are soft. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my handheld immersion blender. What you do is you put it in and it's going to puree it. It looks good. Gonna give it a little taste, see if it needs anything. Yummy. Gonna add a little bit more salt. A little bit more pepper. Now when you stir this, you got to make sure that you feel like if there's any little lumps, which I can feel there's a little bit in here. So I'm going to use my immersion blender a little bit more. How nice and creamy it is. And this is even without the heavy cream. Mm. 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 Tastes good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add, we're going to put it in another pot, and we're going to add the cream, and we're going to add the cheese. Now the reason why I'm putting it in another pot, because this soup right here can be frozen up to 3 months. But if you add the cream and the cheese, you can't do that. That's why I'm going to get another pot right now, transfer some of it into the pot, add the cream, and also add the cheese, the Gruyere cheese. Okay, so what we did was we transferred probably about half of what was in here into here. We're going to freeze the rest of this. Now, you cannot freeze it with the cream in it and the cheese. So that's why this is separated. But you can freeze it the way this is. But we just added 1 cup of heavy whipping cream to this, and we also added Gruyere cheese. So all that Gruyere cheese that I shredded up could be used for the entire thing, but we're just going to use enough for this amount, and this is what Yvonne and I are going to eat today for St. Patrick's Day. This makes such a great soup for St. Patrick's Day, and hope you make it. I mean, it has potatoes and, you know, it's Irish. You know, you got to think to yourself, yes, I got to make something that is Irish. If you wanted to make corned beef and cabbage, we're also going to be making probably a beef stew. But this soup is going to go so well for St. Patrick's Day. And if you think about St. Patrick's Day, it's still during the season of winter. So this is such a great soup for, I mean, any time of the year, but especially for the winter season. So now we're going to put in a bowl and give it a taste test. Stay tuned. Okay, so now for the taste test. So the soup is nice and creamy. I added some chives on top. So good. So good. Little extra bread here. Goes perfect. Gotta have one more bite. This is the perfect soup to make, well, any time of the year, but especially around St. Patrick's Day time. Don't forget, we're still in the season of winter, and this soup is just perfect. Like I said before you put the cream and the cheese, you can put them in containers and store it in the freezer for up to 3 months. But if you are going to add that cream and that cheese, then you have to pretty much eat it right away. So that Gruyere cheese with this and the cream, oh, so good. Yum. I hope you try this out. It is delicious. Thank you so much for joining us on Happy Healthy Living with Yvonne Douglas today. Remember, if you want that homey vibe, you need to subscribe, and please give this video a like. Until next time, my friends, happy healthy living and happy St. Patrick's Day. Bye-bye.